So welcome to another edition or volume of Pub Shed and Home Bar Sessions. This is volume 40. Again, it's the third one that we've got on YouTube as well. But all the rest of the episodes are available to listen to on their own separate podcast, Pub Shed and Home Bar Sessions, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts, as well as the main Alan audio show. And I'm very, very pleased to be joined today by a Sheffield Sheddy, or kind of Sheffield Sheddy, adopted Sheffield Sheddy. The shed's in Sheffield, let's say that anyway. So let's have him on, let's bring him on. Here he is. It's the Vine Pub Shed. How are you doing, mate? Good to see you.
Oh, yes. Yeah, very good to be on.
How's it going? All good?
Yeah, very well for this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, I can see you in your Alan Audio t-shirt. Thank you for wearing that. Yeah, because that on brand. And I remember the first time I saw you wearing it was when you went to the Sheffield beer festival, didn't you?
Yeah. I thought it was good to spread the beer and cheer as you do.
It was, yeah, and I couldn't even get there, so it's good that it was there in some way, because you went to the beer festival on the Friday, but it got rained off, didn't it, because of the heavy flooding that some of the areas were worried about. But was it a good beer festival?
It was, yeah. It's been, to be honest, it's been years since I've been to a festival. They've always been on, but we've just chose for some reason not to go, and we thought, might as well have the Friday off, so it was handy, even though it was cancelled then, so we went Saturday. But yeah, it was really good.
Good stuff. And just to get me right, it's Steve, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah.
Got it right, Steve. Right now, because when we joined this call, like we've sort of like communicated for a long time over, on Instagram and stuff like that. You've always shared our, podcast stuff, which I really, really appreciate. Sharing it on your own stuff, and that really, really like that. And it's really good that you do that for us. So thank you very much. And we've always sort of chatted about, says one day we'll meet up, we'll have a drink in a bar, and we never got round to it. But then when you came online, I thought, I know this guy. And I know you because I have met you before. We bumped into each other at the Battle of the Boozers launch, but the 2022 launch, which took place at the Bear. I think that might be the first place I saw you, and I might have sort of crossed paths at various other things as well when we've been out and about in Sheffield.
Yeah, most likely. It's a bit like Joe from Pints of Sheffield. I've seen it 2/3 a couple of times, or someone's been looking, and then you that's him from online. It's not weird, but it's you almost think you know someone you haven't actually met, but because you chat online and interact.
It's hard now to go to any sort of craft beer meetup anywhere in the country and not bump into someone from the beer community on Instagram. I mean, it happens to Andy all the time. He was only in London the other week and bumped into Joe from Pints of Sheffield. So it's amazing how that happens. But tell us about yourself then, because you're obviously based in Sheffield and you've got your pub shed in Sheffield. It's a great looking pub shed. I'm going to put some pictures up in a second. But yeah, you're not actually from Sheffield originally, are you?
No, originally Newcastle. Long story. Well, short story. My partner Claire's from Sheffield. She had friends so many years ago. She was up there. I was there in a bar. Sort of just went from there, really. I commuted quite a bit for a few years, and then it got to a point where you're getting a bit older. You want to sort of settle down to a degree in terms of not to commute anymore. So yeah, it got to a point of just putting a plan in place to move down fully, and we are. So
and you're in a great place, because I know you're kind of quite central to Sheffield as well, aren't you?
Yeah, because we used to live Sharrows, so just off London Road, the bottom end, so really close to town anyway. But then when I moved down fully up, I'd moved down fully when we were still there, but then we ended up moving and finding another house where we are now, which is towards the bottom end of Abbeydale Road, which is then the amount of bars that popped up in the past few years it's just went huge. So
It's crazy. I mean, in the spot you are, you've got Abbeydale Road. I mean, we know what the bar's like on there because that's where the whole
Yeah.
beer festival runs. But then, even then, just off there, you've got places like Ecclesall Road. There's a couple of nice places up and down there as well. And I know not far from that, you've got like places like the Beer Engine as well, which aren't a million miles away from you. And then, really, you're not that far from places like Division Street and stuff as well, are you?
Yeah, and Chesterfield Road. I mean, you've got
Yeah.
Trinshed, a few pubs on there, but then also, Wood Seats isn't too far off. Where you've got Mester's Tap. It's just opened up.
Have you managed to get to the Mester's Tap yet?
Not yet, not yet. Because we're planning to hit that, and not being heard yet either. Because we've been to Boston Arms a few times.
Yeah.
Guzzle, but yeah, there's like you said, there's quite a few up there now.
Yeah, some really, really good play. I mean, the Mester's is a brilliant tap, and they're just a great brewery anyway. But some of the guest beers that they have on there as well are great. Good stuff. We'll get on to talking a bit more about beer very shortly. But what I do want to chat about, obviously, is on Home Bar and Pub Shed and Home Bar sessions. I want to chat about the Vine Pub Shed. So when did all this come about then?
Yeah, pretty much started from when we moved into this new place. We inherited there was already a shed here in the summer house. The summer house was a bit in disrepair. The roof was a bit needed redoing. Some of the side panelings. So I managed to. This was in winter, just pretty much just before lockdown, COVID. So it was a case of sprucing it up a little bit as best we could at the time with a tall pole on the top to protect the wood for the elements at the time of year. And it just sort of almost created a bit of a little. You sort of miss going to the pubs. You can go, you can have a drink at home. It's sometimes not the same. Feels a little bit sort of cheeky going out somewhere. So it was just a bit of a. At first, it was body warmers on. It was a couple of IKEA chairs and tables. An old bookcase that we inherited that was just in here. So it was quite a novelty having to be, wrap up with a scarf, body warmer, as I say, having a few drinks outside with some little lights on. And then it was a case of just, well, let's do it properly. And the summer of lockdown was sort of probably the best summer I think the UK has had, which wasn't great for the reasons, but it gave away a chance to give it a bit of a spruce up and sort of, luckily at the time, I worked at a timber merchant. So I was able to get my hands on excess CLS, stuff like that, pallets. So it was, just look at some plans online and just have an idea of people's pub sheds that I'd seen on other accounts. And just sort of, it's went from there, really.
I mean, you did a great job with it. I mean, do you find yourself to be quite handy then, or did you have some help? Because it looks like you've done a lot of the sort of like woodwork and building things yourself, and I'd have no chance with that. But yeah, how did you find that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I've always been probably. I don't mind trying my hand at anything to a degree. Probably apart from electrics, where there's risk of death. I'd stay away from that. I'd stay away from that. But I'd try most things.
Good stuff. I mean, the pictures that we've got on screen at the minute for those watching on YouTube, but I'll just describe them for the Spotify listeners. One of the things I really like, and these are some of like the during pictures that you've got on your Instagram, and it's kind of building some of the seating. And the one that I like in particular is how you've kind of built that sort of seat that's kind of angled into a bit of a weird corner in the shed, isn't it? The sort of where the door sort of is and everything like that. But you've managed to fit it in perfectly and proper make use of that space.
Yeah, I mean, the idea with some of it was so that they can be moved around. So you've got like a corner, but then one can join to the other side, so it's a full length. And then it got to a point, because we used to have a leather chair in here that we inherited. It was okay. But then it took up a lot of space, so we got rid of that. And then it freed up space to create that extra seat just to fit in that corner. That again can move around and sort of accommodate if there's other people who want to pop in and sort of things like that.
It's really, really good. You've done a brilliant job with it. I mean, how big would you say the place? I mean, I know my shed's like only a 6x8, but yours is kind of a different shape, isn't it? So do you know roughly how big it is?
I think it's probably about. I think it's about 8 by 6. Just the
All right.
dimensions are. It probably seems It probably seems bigger than what it is.
Mm.
But to be fair, I mean it's quite. Yeah, it can fit a few people in. I've been toying with the idea to try and make. I would like a stand-up bar because everyone just
Yeah.
likes to have a bit of a lean on, or like sit on a stool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that might come at some point. I've got stored wood.
Well, like I said, the tinkering never ends, does it? But obviously, from the pictures that we've got on screen for the YouTube people at the minute, I've just moved on to kind of some of the pictures of the finished shed now, and it looks amazing. I mean, the first thing that you spot are the can labels that are up on the walls, and can labels always make great wallpaper, as
Yeah,
lots of sheddies will tell you. I love the McKee picture as well, and it's the dog, isn't it, that you
dogs.
see
Yeah,
around different places in Sheffield, particularly right outside the Neeps End Social Club. You've got that dog, haven't you? But with its nose in a packet of hobnobs. I love that picture. And then yeah, it just looks, it's so well finished. And to me, that looks bigger than 6 by 8. But I think it might just be the shape and how you've used all the space. It
yeah,
looks really spacious. You could easily get like, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 people sat around there together, couldn't you?
yeah. I think where I'm sat, you could probably get at least maybe 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3
Yeah.
here. So yeah, it's
You've done a brilliant job with it. Have you got any particular favourite features?
um. Probably, I mean, it's probably designed to be facing so that you get the sunlight.
Mm.
So you get the sun during the day where it comes across. But one of the sort of backstories to the name of it, well, not the name, well, the name to a degree, because it was covered in vines and it was all overgrown on the back wall and everything. But then you do get the odd fox come across the back. And sometimes we have been in on a night time, and you do sometimes see the fox just run through the garden. Um, so it's quite that is quite handy, that the fact that you've got a viewpoint of seeing that possibly happen.
And I do like the sign. I mean, the swinging sign's a proper traditional looking swinging sign as well. Now, am I right in thinking was that made for you, or was that actually a reclaimed pub shed sign? That one.
It was just a reclaimed one I'd found online on eBay. Someone was selling, so I thought it sort of fits the mold.
It does, and even the way you described seeing the fox sort of dashing about, that's what the picture looks like. You've caught a glimpse of this fox just sneakily like going behind the back of the shed sort of thing, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed that some things just pop up at the right time when you have a look and browse, and it just that was one of those. So,
I
yeah.
mean, a couple of things that I've also got on screen for the YouTube viewers is there's also a dartboard as well that you've got. Is that actually up in the shed as well, the dartboard?
Yeah, you've got to have one of the doors open to have a good proper distance. But yeah, it's again that was another casual eBay, a Simpsons dartboard. Just
And what I like about it in particular is that you even got your own flights done for it, didn't you, as well? I'm not very good with dart terminology, but flights are the bit that tag to the end of the dart, aren't they?
yes, yeah. Again, that was something that I'd spied online, that you can get your own images uploaded, and it was reasonably cheap. So
It's brilliant. I don't think I've seen that before. If there are any other sheddies who have got their own personalised flights on their darts with their pub shed logo, that'd be great to see. I tell you what, now I've mentioned that Patriot Lockdown bar, he'll be getting some made up. Even if he's not got a dartboard, he'll be getting them. Anyone want any Patriot Lockdown bar flights? But yeah, it's a great looking place. It looks nice and cozy in there with the lighting that I know you've added not too long ago as well. Looks really, really cool. What you mentioned that you had some. You looked on Instagram for inspiration and stuff like that when it comes to pub sheds. Were there any in particular that stood out to you that you took a lot of inspiration from?
yeah, pretty much most of the accounts that are on your podcast, sure, to be honest. We have Andy, obviously Patriot, lots, and just the style here, the sort of the wooden aspect. I mean, you get a lot of sort of modern ones now, but sometimes I quite like the panel wood effect and old school sort of shed, and yeah, it's quite. But then you get some you see, I think it's inspired a lot of people now to do their own and sort of make it up and just have that
Hmm.
time away. That if I think it was one of the recent ones on the podcast, one of the pub sheds that they've got kids, so it's handy to just get to the
Yeah.
back of the garden. Um, I think they had disabilities as well, so that can make it awkward getting
Yeah.
out. So yeah, things like that.
Brilliant, good stuff. And the other thing I want to talk about is obviously beer, because I know your love for beer is clear to see from your Instagram account. I know you like a lot of your Abbeydale beers. I know you're into Dayers and stuff like that as well. But you also, as a lot of we seem to have a lot of people in the community that do this. You very cleverly combine beer and running and seem to do both very very well. You're a keen runner as well, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, I am. Yes, yeah, and it never used to be. I think it was only probably about maybe 10 years ago. A bucket list sort of thing. I want to do a 10K, and it was one of the guys down here. I think this was maybe September, October. Said, "There's one coming up. I'll do one with you." So you sign up with someone, and that was the Percy Pud, which is coming up this weekend, I think. Um, Only planned to do one, and then it sort of went quite well, and just kept at it. Um, and there's something nice about having a run and then just finishing with a beer.
I think if you can do it, it's brilliant, because I always feel like if I could run all this beer off, then I wouldn't care how much I was drinking. Well, to an extent. And you seem to be able to do that. I know IPA Adventures. I know he's the same. He's a keen runner as well. You've also got Joe at the White Fox. He loves his running as well. So if you can do both, it's great, isn't it? Because you can enjoy your beer and you can run and not feel too guilty about it either.
Yeah. I mean, it's also there's this. I mean, it's a bit like the Sheffield Half Pint Marathon, where the whole of September you can visit various venues that alternate each year. Some of them, but that was quite a novelty. The fact that you can run, it's I don't think everybody does it, but it was quite a novelty just running around each pub having a half. Yeah, having a bit of a good time. There's quite a lot of
Oh, we've just lost you a second. I'll wait till you might come. Are you dropping back in? You're coming back in. You're coming back in. It's all right. That's okay. I caught the end of that, so I can chop that into that and sort that out. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. And speaking of, you're in Sheffield. And I know that you do drink quite a lot of Sheffield beer as well. Are there, what is there a Sheffield brewery in particular that you're quite keen on and that you like? I know there's so many to choose from, but have you got a favourite Sheffield brewery?
yeah, Abbeydale Brewery. Yeah, I
Abbeydale
think
Brewery, excellent.
I think it's probably because it's apart from yeah, it's probably the first brewery when I was first coming down here that it was everywhere. Deception, Absolution, Moonshine. Um, yeah, and what they're knocking out now is yeah, it's pretty. Their range just went massive all of a sudden, and yeah, it's you can't knock the fact that Moonshine's still knocking about and it's so popular. Yeah, it would probably have to be that one.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, Moonshine's the one that I gave Dave and Andy the other week
Yeah,
when I was when I sent them a pretend sample beer. So they ended up quite liking it when they found out it wasn't actually what we said it was. But anyway, yeah, good stuff. So and outside of you run and you've got your own pub shed. What is it that you do outside of that? Then what does Steve do? What is it that you do?
well, on top of that, I mean, big music fan. We like to go and hit gigs wherever possible, either big bands, small bands, local. Um, one of the things that was quite good commuting that, although when I used to start going down to Sheffield, was you'd always have a band on some pub somewhere on a Friday or a Saturday night. It's always, regardless of the music to a degree, it's always nice to hear live music. Um, yeah, that's a huge, as well as obviously how big the beer is down here in Sheffield. The music scene's got its history on currently as well. So and then obviously the two mix well. If you like music and beer, yeah, you've got the Lead Mill.
Of
Yeah, you
course.
can't knock some of the beers that have been brought out to support that.
Yeah. Brilliant. And what kind of stuff is it you do day to day in terms of like work and stuff like that? If you obviously, if you're allowed to say, some people are like MI5 and can't tell us, you know what I mean? So
No, so I just work as a supervisor in a pharmaceutical warehouse. So I cover the later shift, so it's not too bad because don't start with 10, so I get it the whole morning to a degree. But yeah.
excellent. Good stuff. So if we were to walk in, you mentioned you're quite a music fan as well. So this is a good question to ask. And I know you send us some great songs for our song request courtroom as well. So if you was to walk into the Vine pub shed on a typical night when you're in there, you're having a few beers, music's on, what kind of thing might people expect here? What kind of things might people hear?
I think on a Friday when we come in here, generally we tend to put on a repeat of Nights with Alice Cooper on Planet Rock, just because you get quite a good mix of songs, and we're probably both into that sort of genre of music, the sort of old sort of 80s rock to a degree, current as well. You could find sort of Springsteen sessions, James Bay, could be Kings of Leon, just a random mix to a degree of songs like that. So as I say, there's no specific that are particularly, or we particularly just, it's got to be that. Or I don't want your music on, I'll have yours. It's quite just have a station on and have it randomly play.
Good stuff. And before I ask you to tell us what song you've chosen that represents yourself and your pub shed, your home bar, all that kind of thing, obviously we'll arrange a meet up at some point, and we'll go and have a drink in 2/3, because I know that you're a big fan of 2/3, as am I as well. A brilliant bar, always got great beers on and good atmosphere and music and everything in there as well. So we'll get that sorted. But it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for coming on and speaking with us, Steve.
No worries, yeah. Thanks for the invite.
And thanks for all the support that you're constantly showing the podcast as well, and sharing and everything like that. And next time I do sort of cross paths or bump into you, I'll know who you actually are now. I'll know that, this is the Vine Pub Shed. It'll all make sense to me. So what song have you chosen then that represents yourself, your home bar, that kind of thing?
There was a couple I was pondering over, but I'd like to choose one, but I think the other one's probably more fitting, which is Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue. A bit of a ballad type one for them, but just the background to their doing the song is, I think it was the Shout of the Devil tour. I think they were away from home for about 18 months and found it hard. So when they got back, that's where the song come from. And I think that's a bit like me, Newcastle, commuting down here. We've moved here. We've got this pub shed, and it's just everything seems to be. This is a second home from home. So that's. I think I'd probably that's probably fitting.
That is a perfect choice, Steve. So we'll get that played for you. Once again, thanks for chatting, Steve, from the Vine Pub Shed.
Right, thank you very much.
Cheers.